Hello.
Hi, Yami. We have the amazing Yami Lofvenberg, or Yami Rowdy Lofvenberg, joining us today. How are you doing, Yami?
I'm doing good. It is a crazy, crazy world out there. But actually, there was something this morning that made me almost chuckle to myself a little bit. How many people came out in the beginning of this year in January going, it is a 2020 vision, y'all, like 2020 vision. And then everything happened and everyone was like, well, what about a 2020 vision? You didn't see this one coming. But turning that around, 2020 vision, where you see things clearly when things are coming out in the light and you're opening up your eyes to so many things happening in the world, you know, and that is the kind of true vision of seeing stuff, right? So actually 2020 vision is actually happening in front of our own eyes right now. So
yes, yeah. And Yami 2 days ago spoke live on Instagram about some really big issues that I'm sure we're going to kind of delve into a little bit more. The kind of the theme today, we've been speaking a lot about the voice, about how women's voices are silenced within this industry. And yeah, it was, for me, you know, there was tears after watching your Insta live. It was so inspiring to hear you speaking up and to have that invitation for other women to speak up.
Definitely. I think coming from the sense of being a Black woman and having my voice silenced for so long and being constantly silenced and constantly questioned about what I have to say, and it's something that for me is very dear to my heart, because I like my background. So a little bit about me. I grew up in Sweden, which is predominantly white, in the 80s, when Black Lives Matter, race, anything like that wasn't really a big thing as it is today. And so racism was very, very much rife. And I learned from a very young age that I was Black and was subjected to countless of racist interactions. Then after being racially abused for most of my life living in Sweden, I then went into the hip hop dance scene. And then also, no longer was I only just a Black kid being abused, but I was being abused for being a woman within a male dominated industry. And so throughout, I had to find my voice and I had to find strength within myself, because no one was giving me that strength to survive these encounters throughout my whole life. And so being in the hip hop industry as a woman and trying to progress taught me that my voice is not going to be amplified by anyone else but myself and people like-minded like myself. But I didn't learn that until years later. And so female voices has always struggled to be heard amongst the noise. And this noise comes in different shapes and forms, whether it's a patriarchal system, whether it's white privilege, whether it's any sort of type of noise that kind of disrupts our focus. So using these experiences, I decided that I'm not going to be silent and I'm going to be quite opinionated. And I got the name, well, my name, Rowdy, which is my stage name. I was told, because like I said, I wasn't English, so English was just my second language, but I came here and people used to say, this girl, she's too rowdy, she's too much, she talks too much, she's too noisy, she takes up space and she comes in the circle and thinks she's all that. And me loving dance and loving being part of hip hop, because I've been part of a white system, racist system for so long, I wanted to express this feeling of joy, couldn't understand why these people were saying this negative thing about me. And so I realized that in order for me to survive this negativity, I have to take this negativity and flip it and reverse it, as Missy Elliott says. And so I took the name Rowdy to take ownership of, yes, I am here to take space and make noise and be all the loudness and things in your face that I can be, because you can't tell me what I can and cannot do. And so that is my whole ethos throughout my whole career, and how I mentor young women, how I guide them to be with women, and how I take on board the work that I love and passionate about. And this has helped, this mantra and this time to get rowdy is my slogan, my hashtag time to get rowdy is the ethos of me saying it is time for me to take my time. It's time for me to do whatever I want. It's time for you to do whatever you want. It's time for all the women to be rowdy and to do what the F they want. Yeah. And so I had this in my head, and I fully believed in it no matter what. And yes, I have had countless or more interactions that's put me down, but it has pushed me through to the person I am today. And yeah, I've been lucky now to meet women along my path that has amplified that voice and made it even stronger. And I'm part of an intersectional feminist cabaret, circus, hip hop group collective from Australia called Hop Brown Honey, and they are First Nation. They're a mix of First Nation women and Black women from Australia who definitely have gone through that same story and uses their voices and skills on stage to fight this injustice and fight for women's rights on stages across the world. And I was very lucky to meet them and be part of their company, and yeah, finding my tribe. So it has made me even stronger as a woman.
So you're an international artist. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, so I started in the UK mostly with my career. I formed Sweden's first all-female dance group, a hip-hop dance group called Kutspa Crew. And Kutspa means almost like so confident that it's almost too much, and that seems to be a sort of a line in my life. But Tuta is I think it's sort of Jewish or Hebrew or something like that. But Oprah Winfrey had the Chutzpah Awards, so look it up. But it's Chutzpah, CHUTZAAPH, Chutzpah. No, I can't. And yeah, so I formed the first all-female group in Sweden, and then when I came to the UK, I formed the first all-female B-girl crew, and then alongside with another lady, and then I formed the UK's first all-female popping and locking crew, so Flozaic and Fundamental. And I decided to do this because I didn't see that representation. So I always have worked within women rights, and I always had women projects. I've always pushed women within the scene. And yes, doing so has taken me to other countries where I've been in competitions, I've been teaching workshops, performed internationally, and becoming my own artist and making my own work, social practical work with a dark, funny twist, because I like to work in dark comedy. And yeah, taking me around the world to engage with the hip hop community around the world. So.
And yeah, I love Yami's work. Yami's performed at some of my events as well. And then how about the rest of the, like, in terms of the UK scene, like how does that differ to your kind of international, you know, for example, with Hot Brown Honey, you choreographed a show, you've been performing in different countries, but how about back in the UK? How do you feel like that's different to your international career?
I think it's hard because I can say it happens in each country, because living in Sweden and living here, it happens in both countries. Whenever you travel outside your country, you get much more love than you get in your country, especially women. And I don't know why that is. I don't know if it's because you're an anomaly and you come in and you're a guest in their country and that's therefore you're interesting. I don't know what it is, but every time I go outside the UK, I get much more respect than I get in the UK. And I find it's easier to be heard when you are somewhere else. But then at the same time, I know for a fact that women who's in those countries feel the same way of going other places. So that's the only really difference I can say.
And do you think like
different opportunities as well? There's different opportunities. We're in UK. We're very lucky that we have such a wide and varied opportunity field that you can be successful in whatever you want to do, because there's space. Where even though we're crazy overcrowded, there's so much space to make different type of work. Whereas in other countries, there might not be that funding, there might not be that space for it.
And the Hot Brown Honey project, was that funded by Australia, or was that funded by the UK?
No. So Hot Brown Honey is a company that's been going on for 5 years now, coming in 6 years. It started because these women was in Australia, Aboriginal First Nation people are sort of like Black people are in other communities. They're at the bottom, and they are not represented on TV. They're not represented on stages. So these women decided, in order for them to get work, in order for them to be heard, they're going to have to make their own work and their own stages. So it started as a cabaret night, who then became into a project where they self-funded to make their own show, and then form this show. And they self-fund, they're not funded at all. They self-fund worldwide tours. They have mothers in the company, so we sell merchandise. We sell cultural awareness merch, which is like earrings and t-shirts and stuff like this, and they sell it, and their money that goes from the merch goes straight back to the mothers, so they can be on tour and provide for their children. Beautiful. So we have a slogan called "The revolution cannot happen without childcare," and we have many slogans to help us get funding.
Beautiful.
Funded.
Wow, so inspiring.
Yeah.
So Yami, I wanted to ask you a little bit about you're talking about this speaking up, and how, like, how that's received, but also whether you feel like other people speak up for you on the scene, in your experience in the UK.
Yeah, I had a question recently about how many times, can you remember a time when someone spoke up for you? And can you remember a time when you spoke up for someone else? Can you remember when someone spoke up for you as a Black woman? Can you remember when a man spoke up for you? And unfortunately, I don't have many of those stories where I can remember someone speaking up for me. However, I have countless of stories where I speak up for women and men, and being in unjust situations where I've been physically supporting people with my hands. Not violently, but protecting. And so it's sad, because I feel like many of times it makes you tired to speak up for people, being that person to constantly talking for people. And I had a conversation today because of the situation that's happened, but this person saying, I feel tired, I feel stressed to talk up for people. It makes me feel like vulnerable because I don't know how to speak up for them. And I said to them, if I didn't speak up for people, then I couldn't live with the guilt of not speaking up for people. I couldn't live with the feeling of knowing that I could have said something and done something in that situation. And that feeling for me is worse than the repercussion of speaking up and standing my ground to something that is unjust. Yes, I get labeled as the angry Black woman. Yes, I get a label as too outspoken and too noisy, but no war, no revolutions, no role models in our history and lifetime has ever been quiet and not spoken up. The people that we look up to are the people that speaks out. And the people that we want to be like is the people that stands for something. So there is never an option of not saying it. And many people sometimes confuse speaking up for being Audre Lorde or Angela Davis or Oprah Winfrey or, people that stands up. Use that they have to be that person. Speaking up for someone in a small way is basically saying, are you okay? That is not right. I don't agree with this. I don't think that that's right behavior. Are you safe? Is he making you safe? Is this a safe situation? Small things like that is speaking up. taking someone out of a situation. I mean, we see on the Black Lives Matter, you know, front, a small action of standing in front of someone to shield them. It's not speaking, it is doing. Yeah, it's a physical act of doing something that the smallest thing that you can do, of shielding someone in a situation that you know you are not as in danger as the person behind you. That is an act of speaking up and being outspoken without even saying anything. So we don't all have to be revolutionary, but we need to all be accountable for taking action in the tiniest little way.
Yes. And on that note, like, do you have any message for those people who might feel for some reason that they're not able to speak up, or why do you think people feel they can't speak up? What is it that is taking people's voices? Why do people feel silence?
There's different things, like fear. Fear is the one that kills a lot of voices. Fear of causing offense, saying something that shouldn't have. Fear of the backlash of what's going to happen after they said it. So there's many things, but fear is the biggest perpetrator why people don't speak up. And then also this whole thing of like, once I've spoken, I've now put my opinion out there. And am I sure that's my opinion? Am I sure that this is the correct thing that I'm talking about? And so I better not say nothing. It's better not me not saying nothing rather than saying the wrong thing. And so many reasons why that people wouldn't speak up. And I think my main, what's the English word? Suggestion for this is that start with yourself. Like I said on my Insta story that that I'm not an expert in anything. I haven't gone to masters and done my masters in anything. So I'm not an expert, but what I'm an expert is my lived experience. What I'm an expert on is being myself and knowing how I feel. So speak about yourself, how you feel in that situation. I saw this and it made me feel like this, and I feel like this is a bit wrong. I don't know. I'm talking how I feel. And that's a way of speaking up. Many people feel like they need to have facts and I, you know, knowing what they're talking about. You just need to know yourself and how you feel. And that is a way of speaking up if you're not sure how to speak up about something. So start with yourself, start with your own voice, start with things that physically affects you.
Beautiful, thank you, Yami. In terms of the future of hip hop, like, you know, we're in this time when we're really seeing change, when so many things are being put right and so many things are emerging on the scene. What would you like to see? How would you like to see the future of hip hop?
Hip hop dance or hip hop? Let's
go hip hop dance.
Okay.
Let's keep it like, you know, the scene that we know, the scene that we share, the UK dance scene, UK hip hop scene.
Yeah. So I think that the hip hop dance scene always grows, and it keeps growing, and sometimes it grows a little bit too fast, and people haven't got a chance to catch up. And a very interesting thing I was talking about today as well. We have many kids that is forming groups and becoming teachers, and they become teachers at a very young age and forming groups at a very young age. And we all used to do it back in the days. We have our little group friends and whatever, and we do our things. But back in the days, it wasn't like a professional thing. You wouldn't get paid to do a job. You would just do it for fun. And the innocence was still there. But right now we're living in 2020 where it's you can very quickly get paid for things. You can very quickly get exposed to contracts and job things that you might not have learned a lot of things about. And so these young teachers are going into schools and establishments and might not have been taught how to teach safely and clearly, or with an understanding of what's happening when certain things are said or done. And we are not getting the same, we're churning out educational leaders as much as we're churning out just dancers who want fame. We live in a YouTube and social media industry where things it's a very quick fix. So people want to learn the dance very quickly. People want to do TikTok very quickly. And so, whereas back in the day, it took a little bit longer to master situations and things and educate yourself. So I would like to have a little bit more of education put in place, safety, 100% safety within the dance industry, because at the moment it is not safe for young women and women who comes up in the dance industry, because we haven't got a union, faculty, a body that can protect young men and women in unsavory situations. And I would like to see a little bit more understanding and knowledge of history and how to bring the culture forward rather than just having a quick fix.
Thank you. And do you feel like, you know, like, for example, I think your top says make way for the matriarchy. Be nice to hear your thoughts on that, like where the female comes into the future, you know, where is there a female way? Is there, like, what is the matriarchy? What is the kind of female way? How can the female help positively change or impact the scene?
Well, first of all, it's a patriarchal system and it's been for a long time. So first of all, that needs to change. We've been on the sideline for a long time now. So, and unfortunately, not unfortunately, I keep saying unfortunately like it's a thing. Zip that. Women make people. Women are mothers. Women create life. The system should really be matriarchal, because it is. In every family you have a matriarch, and if you don't, you might have a friend or someone that you know who's a matriarch in your life without you knowing it, right? So
yes, Yami,
is the very essence of life and how we operate and how we become. So it's a system that is there but not acknowledged. It's a system that's always been there but not acknowledged. In villages there is matriarchs who decides. Yeah, they decide. There's no old orange 45ths talking about rights for women. There are women who decides for women. So the reality is the system is very old, it's very patriarchal, and it's very old fashioned. It's very male, pale, and stale as well. So it is inevitable that we're going to go forward with a more understanding of women's roles and and I say roles, I say that very loosely because there is no women role, a person's role in society, and how we be equal and how we, you know, support each other and how we are seeing everyone as the same. And that way is the only way forward. I don't believe that the future is female. I believe that the future is equal. Yeah. I very careful I don't call myself a feminist. And if I do, I call myself an intersectional feminist, first of all. I call myself an equalist, because I believe I really, really want everyone to be equal, whether you are non-binary, fluid, male, woman, trans, whatever you are, live your whole truth and nothing but the truth. And it is an equal society. Yes, I understand there is jobs that is more men are more able to do, but it certainly is not ruling countries.
On that note, can we just talk a bit about power? Because, you know, we're looking at what equality is, and I think power balances kind of like these triangular structures, these patriarchal structures that we live by now. We've got, you know, very often, like you said, a white male might be the person in power. So can we just talk a little bit about, you know, power in terms of this future and what this future could look like? What needs to happen? How does the power structures need to change? Particularly, like, I guess let's bring it back again to the hip hop scene in the UK, but also, you know, I think everything always has a reflection on kind of the bigger world as well. Like you just spoke about politicians, for example. Do you have any offerings, any insights on how power could change for the better?
With power, right, is I bring it back to the movement, but white privilege and people understanding about their white privilege, right? So I bring it back to fear, because fear is power. Yeah, power is fear. And say it right there.
Oh, brilliant.
Yeah, so I bring it back to that. I feel like when people understand about their privilege and their power, and knowing that they can lose it, the fear comes in, and that's why they don't want to lose their power or privilege. And so people would want to stay in their position of power by suppressing other people, putting fear into people, putting doubts into people. And unfortunately, in every society, every community, there is a power structure, okay? And this power structure wants to stay on power. So in our community, it's very male dominated. And if we tell the men in our community, in the hip hop dance community, hey, by the way, can you stop being so negative towards women, and can you give women more opportunity? They will lose that power, and they will lose their privilege as men. And unfortunately, until people are willing to step aside and share power, it's very hard to change it, okay? You can constantly fight it, and you can constantly, fight against this oppression, but you have to be able to share power in order for it to grow. Because otherwise, like I said, we are like how the world is now. We've been going around this circle of oppression of Black people over and over for millennia. And now when people had enough of that, which they have been having enough, they're fighting the power. There is still people who believes their privilege is in danger. And so they will oppose that because they don't want to lose it, because the fear of waking up and realizing, oh my God, I am the problem. How am I going to live myself? How am I going to be in this space where I know that I'm the problem? I know that I'm not hiring women. I know that, I haven't enough Black people on my board. I know that, I said something sexist to a woman. Oh my God, how am I going to live this space? And many people do not want to be in this place. They don't want to feel that guilt and fear. They'd rather be like, I just want to be in power and I feel comfortable here. So the future has to be shared. Yeah, we have to share space. There's one earth, right? There's plenty of space on this earth to share. Okay. So we have to share the space. Hip hop dance community, you have to share the space, because women are 50% of this of the population as well. So share the space. Instead of you leading a project, why don't you hire a woman of color or woman? Instead of you leading a dance group, you can lead a dance group, but why don't you share it with a woman? Why don't you give a woman an opportunity to choreograph a piece or whatever? It's very simple. Just share, man. Kids get taught to share from a very early age. Share your toys.
Yes.
Share your toys.
I was watching a certain old interview, and they were talking about how, women, because they're very nurturing, they're very good in the supportive roles, but that maybe they're not they're not so good in the central role. And I think you're a really good example of someone who, we've seen the stuff you've done, and you're really showing an example of someone who, when we are given the opportunity to go for it, to create, damn, we can create, right?
Yeah, because I'm like, who made that? Who made that decision? I wasn't there when that decision was made. You wasn't there. Women wasn't there when that decision was made. So who made the decision that women can also do it? We've been also doing it. So I don't understand this whole notion of like, give women a chance to prove themselves. Why do we have to prove ourselves? We don't ask men to prove themselves. We don't ask men to give them a chance to prove themselves. So why should we ask women? Let just women be. Let us do what we do, the same as men. You know what I mean? But we need to stop this whole, one thing that I'm very keen to stop is how we talk about women and how we talk about what we are allowing them to do and want them to do and think they should do,
Could you expand, we've only got a little bit more time, but could you just expand a bit more on that, about how we talk about women, and like, I know that you're,
For instance, okay, so if you see a female work, maybe you will call it poignant, and interesting and beautiful and whatever. If you see a man work, like performance work, oh, he's a genius, he's intelligent, he's a mastermind, he's a life changer, groundbreaker. Stop that language. Give the same language across the board. Yeah. Stop pitting women against each other. Oh, her work wasn't as strong as his. Why are you pitting people against each other like that? Okay. Platforms, when you give mentorship programs, oh, we want to support women's confidence. We want to support their voice. Men mentorship program. We want to have strong leaders. We want to show the difference. Stop that language. That whole language got to change. It's so outdated and so boring. Ugh, bored. It's so simple. Just have the same language for everyone. Treat people the same.
Thank you.
Really.
Last question, because I'm sure people are really intrigued and they just want to know like what you're doing next, how they can follow you, if there's anything that you're kind of, any ideas that we should know about right now, something that you would like people to see, something that we can come and find out more about you.
So you can follow me on Rowdy Yami on all social networks. That is Rowdy Yami on all social networks. And currently I am writing my new solo show about adoption, about my first meeting with my biological mum, and about the obsession of happy endings. So that will be premiered 2021, if you will give me some money. I need some money.
When people give me some money.
And I am also part of a female leadership program. I still teach workshops for anyone who's interested in theatre, hip-hop theatre workshops, or any types of theatre workshops. And follow me on my socials for any other announcements. Yes.
Thank you so much, Yami. You are so awesome. I can't wait to see that show. Yami also mentors. So, you know, maybe think about this amazing human being.
Hashtag I am available.
Thank you so much, Yami. I'm really excited to continue the conversation, and best of luck with your amazing work.
Thank you.